Discovering Asian dramas back in 2018 was an enlightening moment for me, and I've never looked back. I enjoy talking about them just as much as watching, so much so that I decided to create a podcast to chat everything from Chinese to Korean, Japanese to Thai. Welcome to the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything Asian drama. Hello, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast. I'm Liliana, your host for this podcast. Like I mentioned in my intro, I've been watching Asian dramas since 2018. I forgot there for a moment, and I've never looked back. I have a job which actually I'm quite lucky and allows me to listen to a lot of podcasts, especially Asian drama related pods. However, I find that there is a lack of pods aimed more towards Chinese dramas. So after some convincing from a few friends from the Asian Drama Watchers Discord server, I decided to take a leap of faith, and here we are. My very first episode. So bear with me, we're still trying to work out the kinks in this, but it'll be a journey and I'll be very happy if you go on it with me. So actually, I thought that my first hurdle would be something like trying to, work the system that you record podcasts on. But funnily enough, that was easier than coming up with a name. And I finally landed on the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast because someone suggested it to me. And I thought, this has a ring to it. And I love tea and I love soju. And I thought tea actually represents China. I mean, tea is actually drunk all over the world, but I think China has a really big history of tea. They drink it all the time, and we also see it a lot in Asian dramas, especially in historical Chinese Asian dramas. So I think the tea aspect can really, be attributed to China, at least for the purpose of my name. I'm no expert on this. But soju, we all know what soju is. Or, well, actually, we may not all know what soju is. But it's a very famous Korean alcoholic drink, which is very tasty. There is a plain flavour, and then there's 1,001 other flavours like strawberry and mango, and Koreans drink it all the time. They'll drink it with barbecue, they will drink it on happy days, they'll drink it on sad days, they will whip out the soju anytime. And so I think soju is very, very, very classic Korean. That's where it was born, that's where it's from. So I wanted that in my podcast name as well. And I think, although those two drinks are for two particular countries, I wanted the Asian drama in there as well, so that, it would show that the podcast, I will talk about a little bit of everything, mainly Chinese dramas, but I watch a wide variety of Asian dramas, and I will try to include those in. And also, I want listeners out there to send in their suggestions to me, and whatever you watch, hopefully we can talk about it. Whether it will be, so right now actually I'm watching a bunch of very diverse. I'm watching a couple of Chinese dramas and a couple of Korean. I think I'm watching one Japanese, 2 Thai dramas, and 1 Filipino. So there's quite a variety there, and I'm hoping to include that variety in my podcast. But mainly I think I'll stick to Chinese because I think that's what's mostly lacking out there. So I think for the first episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about myself and my journey into dramas, as well as what the podcast will include. And hopefully you can stick around and this is interesting to you. So like I mentioned, I think I started watching dramas, Asian dramas specifically, in 2018. And Chinese dramas are special to me because they were my first introduction into the world of Asian dramas. But if I go back, really, I used to watch a lot of anime, Japanese anime. And funnily enough, I used to watch it on Netflix, and Netflix kept turning out suggestions for me. And I think it was Christmas. Well, I don't think. I know this because it had to be Christmas because I was on holiday at that time. And Netflix suggested Ashes of Love, the famous Ashes of Love. And I love fantasy. I'm an avid reader of fantasy, especially urban, but I will consume anything that's fantasy. And that's what I was watching mainly. I was watching a lot of shows like Arrow and Shadowhunters and, ultimate fantasy, but that has a lot of urban set in cities and things like that. And I think I came across Ashes of Love, and Netflix played the trailer for me, and I was like, what is this? There's these beautiful people dressed in beautiful clothes, and I had never really seen anything like that before. And if you've watched Ashes of Love, the first episode is, let's just say, it's a bit of a culture shock because it's so different. And it starts off basically with a flower goddess giving birth to a little girl. And the flower goddess has a really tragic past. And basically, she decides that she doesn't want her daughter to go through the same. So she plans her daughter's future, but unfortunately she passes away. And this isn't a big spoiler, it literally happens within the first half an hour of the first episode, so it happens very, very quickly. And that is the main setup for the story. And as I'm watching the first episode, I'm like, what is this? But I was super intrigued because it was so different. It was so high fantasy, it was magic, and there was so much happening. It was beautiful, it was colourful, there was flowers everywhere, there was magic everywhere. And everybody was so beautiful to look at. And these clothes, they're long and flowy. And I think it was so different to anything that I had watched before that I thought, I really, really, really want to try it. Well, 3 days later, I finished the show. Let's just say I really, really, really loved it because obviously I binged 63 episodes in 3 days. Yeah, I think I stayed awake one day until about 7 in the morning, and then I was like, oh, maybe I should get some sleep in. Woke up back at 10 in the morning, so I slept 3 hours and went straight back to watching because I just couldn't sleep anymore. So I really, 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 really loved that drama. And then after finishing that, it was actually quite a while before I tried anything new because I was so absorbed in Ashes of Love and everything that I kept watching behind the scenes and little trailers on YouTube. And then back on Netflix, it suggested to me that I watch Love 020. And I really, really, really enjoyed that one. Although now looking back, and if I were to rewatch that drama again, I'd probably have a lot more trouble with it than I did the first time around. But I guess at that time I was being introduced to a whole new world and everything was, beautiful and fancy, and I really wanted to watch everything, and I was so absorbed that I think I skipped a lot of facts that I was like, now looking back at it, I was like, oh, maybe that wasn't that great. But then I really liked that, and obviously Netflix kept churning out and churning out a lot of suggestions to me, and I stumbled across Strong Girl Do Bong Soon. And now I think that drama to this day still has one of the cutest couples I've ever watched on my screen with Park Bo Young and Park Hyung Sik. They are just adorable throughout the whole drama. And I was like, this is basically books I've been reading for years and years put onto my screen. And now I've come a long way since watching Strong Girl Do Bong Soon. I've gone on a whole new journey, and I think my drama list says I'm 500 dramas in now. So I have watched a lot of different things. Some way better than those three initial dramas, some a lot worse. I mean, you have to go through the bad to get to the good at some point. Um, but after Strong Girl Do Bong Soon, I was like, I was hooked. That was it. I'd been introduced to Chinese and to Korean. It was then a very long time until I made the leap into other dramas, such as Japanese. To me, Japanese dramas are very, very different in terms of Asian dramas because I think first of all, their format itself is a lot shorter than any other dramas out there. Asian dramas. I mean, Korean, you're looking at a standard 16 episode drama. Chinese, who knows? It can be anything between 5 episodes to 100. It is Chinese after all. Yeah, they're known for long, short. They will do anything and everything in between. Um, so yeah, I found that Japanese were very, very different. My jump into Thai, I don't actually remember what my first Thai drama was, but I actually had a really, really difficult time with Thai dramas initially because I think, and this is probably going to sound bad, it isn't supposed to. The language is very, very different to Chinese, Korean, Japanese. You can sort of hear similarities within those three countries in terms of language. So it sounds, not the same to me. They're very, very different languages. But once you jump into Thai, it's a very, very different language. And that took me a little bit of time of getting used to the language and getting used to listening to Thai. And also, Thai dramas are just on a whole level of their own in terms of they can be crazy, especially if you get into BL. BL Thai dramas are insane, but they're also great. Um, and Filipino dramas is actually very, very recently. I think I watched my first one this year, 2022. So they are a very, very, very recent acquisition to my drama list. So I think when I started watching Asian dramas, I'd gotten to a point where Western dramas for me just weren't doing it. I was getting a little bit tired of watching season after season after season. And then you watch, 10 seasons, 5 seasons, and you get to the end and it doesn't really pay off. And you're like, really? Did I just waste? And sometimes you're waiting like a year in between seasons. So you can be sitting with a show for 5, 10. Supernatural, I think, was 15 seasons. You can be sitting with a show for a very, very long time. Although it has its highs, it also means that sometimes it doesn't really pay off what you put into the drama. So I think I was getting a little bit tired of watching Western dramas in general, and I'd been watching anime for a little while by then. So, anime is insane. I haven't actually watched it in a very long time, but when I was watching it, I think that kind of prepped me for going into Chinese and Korean and Asian dramas in general because I was already expecting a lot of crazy things. And I think then, after being watching Asian dramas for about maybe 2 years, I would say 2018, 2019, 2020. Yeah, 2020, the famous pandemic years. I really loved watching them, but I don't, and I didn't at the time really have anyone to talk to about them. And I was getting, whenever you discover a show or something that you love, one of the things that you really want to do is basically you just want to talk to people about it. And I didn't really have anyone to talk to about these dramas. And I kept thinking, maybe I should go and find some people. And I stumbled across a couple of groups on Facebook, and then I decided I was going to venture into Twitter. Now, Twitter is one of those places where it can be really good, but it can also be a really bad place sometimes. And don't get me wrong, I stumbled across some amazing people on Twitter that us very, that I consider friends today. And I think after meeting someone on Twitter, and she'll know who she is. Basically, we discovered each other through the Chinese drama Go Ahead, which I will definitely be doing a review episode on because it's one of my all-time favorites. And basically, after talking to her for quite a while, I stumbled across Discord and I was like, wouldn't it be great if there was a place on Discord where you could feel safe basically airing any opinion and it'd be okay because it's a safe place as long as you're not, being horrible to anyone, specifically any person, then it's fine. And that's when I thought, well, I'll just create a server myself then. So I did. I created the Asian Drama Watchers Discord server. And after being on there for a while, and I've been running it for a year and a half almost, at this point, I thought I really like listening to podcasts. But there isn't really one that's specifically aimed at Chinese dramas. And although at this point I think I've probably watched an even amount of Korean and Chinese, Korean dramas have gone and blown up so big all over the world with the famous Squid Games and everything. And that's, pandemic years. Netflix has really pushed Korean dramas out there. So I think a lot of people know about Korean dramas nowadays, but Chinese isn't quite like that. I think Chinese dramas are still very much made for Chinese people in China. And that's probably one of the things. So, as an international watcher, we rely on subtitles. That is the only way we're going to watch these dramas. Well, unless you know the language of the drama. And I think a lot of Chinese dramas, particularly now, more so than before. But before, there wasn't a lot that was subbed out there. Now I think they've risen in popularity, but if you search on, Spotify or something like that, you can come up with a lot of podcasts that they will talk about Chinese dramas here and there, but they will come back time and time again to Korean. And I suppose Korean dramas are just more readily available. There are a few Korean podcasts out there that I really, really love. And there's a few Asian drama podcasts that I really, really love. Specifically, I listen to podcasts like The Certified Noonas. They are great because they will chat about, there's 4 of them, and they will chat about dramas from all over. And I really, really like that because they're all so different. So I really enjoy listening to them. I love dramas with a side of kimchi. They are great. And then for Korean specific podcasts, you have podcasts like the Lee Evie Korean drama podcast. She's amazing. And her reviews are great. And then you have the Soulmates podcast. Kim and Maddie are also amazing, and they're hilarious together. So I've been listening to all of these podcasts for a really long time, but I was searching for something that would speak about Chinese dramas more specifically, and I really couldn't find one. I have come across a couple of podcasts. I know there's podcasts out there that talk about a Chinese drama here and there, but I wanted one that was more heavily focused on Chinese dramas. And after not really finding one, I thought, well, maybe I should create one. And I've been kind of sitting on the idea for a really long time. And then I thought, no, this is the year. So, here we are. And sorry, this episode is all over the place, but I promise I will try to get better. This is still a learning journey for me. So I think to finish up this first episode, it's going to be a very short one because I just really wanted to introduce myself and the podcast and talk a little bit about my journey. And that's basically what this little first episode. It's more like an introduction to what's coming. I think along the way I'll be doing reviews on Chinese dramas and Korean dramas and other dramas in general. But also I want to try and tackle some topics like censorship. I actually have a friend who is fluent in Chinese, so she's going to help me research an episode like that because there is censorship and heavy censorship on Chinese dramas. And I think if you're a new watcher to Chinese dramas, you might not necessarily know that, and you might think, oh, that's strange. Why is that happening? That doesn't make sense. And sometimes some things just have to happen in a certain way for producers and for companies to get their dramas approved to be able to air them, and that is due to censorship. So I think I'm going to try and do an episode on some, Chinese censorship on dramas. And also, I want to try and do fun episodes with messages from listeners so that there will be other voices and also other opinions on dramas that they've watched and that I've watched. So you're not just getting my opinion, you can get other opinions too. And I think that will balance it out nicely. So I do have a lot of ideas, and I hope you stick with me through this journey. It is still very much a learning journey, so please bear with me. And I think to finish up this episode, I just want to talk a little bit about some of my favourite dramas. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about any of these because I definitely plan to do some little mini reviews at least on them. So I think I will just mention them and I'll go through by countries. Obviously, for Filipino dramas, I think I've really only watched, at this point of recording, I've only really watched one. Two. So I think I will leave those off for right now and come back to at a later date. But for China, I have a lot of, actually, most of my highly rated dramas come from China, which is strange because I think overall the quality of dramas out there, Korean dramas are very, very high in quality, in production value, in storytelling. Koreans tell stories like no others. But for some reason, China just pulls these dramas that take my heart and just wrap their claws around it. So I think for China, I have a couple. Let me see. Two of them are from 2021. So that would be the drama One and Only, and that goes together with Forever and Ever, which star Alan Ren and Bai Lu. And then I should have really written down the years for these, but I can't quite remember. I think it's 2018 for The Untamed. And then Word of Honor. And Go Ahead, I've mentioned it before. It's also one of my favorites. And from this year, 2022 so far, Reset has been a very, very good drama that I've really, really enjoyed. Now, I will add a little disclaimer. I don't speak Chinese, so my pronunciation might be short, and I'm sorry, but like I mentioned, this is a learning journey. We'll go ahead and we'll learn together. I'll try my very best with any pronunciation from any country. I am bilingual because although I live in the UK, I am originally from Portugal. So I do speak Portuguese and English. Unfortunately, I do not speak Chinese, Korean, Thai, Japanese. I wish. I'm trying to learn Korean. And I know a couple of words in Chinese. I thought I'd start with Korean, but because Korean seems like, I don't want to say the easiest because I think learning a new language has its challenges regardless of the language that you choose to learn. The Korean seemed the more attainable language. Maybe I should say the easier language, because Chinese, ooh, those characters scare me to death. So maybe one day, maybe one day. I mean, it's never too late to learn, so maybe one day I'll get to Chinese and try and learn it. And again, I'm all over the place. See, I had a plan all written out of how I was gonna, talk about it and go through my first episode, but I'm all over the place. Clearly, I'm not setting a good precedent, but here we are. I hope, it gets better. It will get better. With practice, I'm hoping with practice, I'll get slightly better as I go. So, we were talking about favorite dramas. Now, for Korean dramas, I think, and actually, they're all quite recent, all from last year. So, last year, I should say 2021, The Red Sleeve, which is a saeguk. Now, for those of you who don't know, a saeguk is a historical drama. Move to Heaven and Happiness. It was really, really hard for me to choose just three. I was trying to limit. I love dramas like It's Okay to Not Be Okay and Racket Boys, and there's a bunch more. I've watched so many, but I really, really wanted to try and choose only a few so people could, see that I do watch a variety of dramas. And also, I don't really mind trying new genres, whether it be rom-com or horror or... Although horror is probably one of the ones I have the hardest time trying, I do really enjoy my, rom-coms and romantic storylines and things like that. But I'll also pretty much, I can watch a crime drama as well. I think there's a few different genres that I enjoy watching. So back to my favorite dramas. I say favorite dramas, but some dramas that I've really enjoyed from each country. That's more what I should say. From Thailand, funnily enough, they're both BLs. I think when I go to Thai dramas, I mainly go for BLs for some reason. I think they probably do some of the best ones out there, and they're really advanced in terms of BL. Now, if you don't know, BL stands for Boys Love. And Thai dramas do this really, really well. Two that I really, really enjoyed was A Tale of a Thousand Stars and Lovely Writer as well. I really, really enjoyed those two. Now, for Japanese, I hope, although I've watched a bunch of anime, I haven't really dived too much into Japanese dramas. I find them a little harder to watch in terms of, first of all, they are a lot harder to find, whereas Korean, Chinese, Thai, most of these are pretty readily available to an international audience. Japanese dramas are hard to find. There's a few floating out there, but a lot of them we have to heavily rely on fans subbing the episodes and the shows for us to watch, because for some reason Japanese dramas just don't come out that much. But I have three on my list that I really enjoyed, and the first one was a really short six episode drama, and it's called Hey Sensei, Don't You Know? I also really enjoy Love Lasts Forever and Marry Me. Now, the thing is, if you use my drama list, which I will definitely talk about later, my drama list is basically just an app where you can keep track of all the dramas that you're watching, which episode you're watching, and then it's pretty cool because it'll give you a little synopsis for each drama, although don't trust synopsis. They are all too often very deceiving. But they list everything from writers to directors to actors and what they've acted in. So I quite enjoy using my drama list. And also at the end of each year, they give you a little wrap up for the year, and basically they tell you and shame you, well, not shame you, they don't, but they tell you how many dramas you watched that year. If you've kept your My Drama list up to date. And also, they have a nifty little thing which I don't dare look at, but basically it tells you how much time you've spent watching dramas, and that can always be very dangerous. But you can very easily find dramas within My Drama list. However, for Japanese dramas, for some reason, on My Drama list, most of them are in Japanese writing, so it's a lot harder for you to come across them. So all of these are the English titles, but if you do want to look any of them up, I would write the title in Google and then, search for it that way. That's probably the easiest way to come across Japanese drama. Right, I think that's all the country. Oh, no, I have some Taiwanese. Oh, I almost forgot. I have some Taiwanese dramas. Almost forgot. So for Taiwanese dramas, some of my favorites are, and this is a big one because I think it's one of the most popular Taiwanese dramas, and it's called Someday or One Day. It is a beautiful drama, and no wonder so many people have loved it. And the next one is another BL, and it's called We Best Love, Number One for You. I really, really loved that one. It has 2 seasons. They're very short seasons. I loved the first one slightly more than the second one, but I enjoyed both of them regardless. Now, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it now. So I hope you've enjoyed this first little episode. I know it's a bit all over the place, but I'm hoping to, as I record more of these, to get better and better. I hope you join me in my next episode and in my journey in general. This has been the first episode of the Tea and Soju Asian Drama Podcast. I'm your host Liliana, and you can come and chat to me on Instagram at Tea and Soju Pod, all one word, and on Twitter, Tea_Soju_pod. You can also find a great community at the Asian Drama Watchers Discord server, where cool people gather and talk everything Asian drama. I'll leave everything linked in the description notes. See you next time for more Asian drama chatter.